What's up, dancers? Today I want to talk to you about why you don't just want a good ass, you need a good ass. Not only for your dance technique to give you more power, coordination, balance, all that good stuff in your technique, but most importantly, so that you can stop dealing with pain and injuries that can be prevented. My friends, if you struggle with knee pain, IT band pain, low back pain, if you have really tight gripping hip flexors, if you have really tight calves that are always just like, or really tight quads, all of that can be traced back to one issue that we're going to be covering today, gluteal amnesia. So some of you might be thinking, well, obviously glute strength is important for dance, like my dance teachers have told me, like squeeze your butt for years and years now, but do you actually know what that mind to muscle connection feels like? Do you truly know if your glutes are working or not? Gluteal amnesia is basically when your glutes aren't firing. They're not working, they're asleep, they're kind of shut down, and other parts of your body are overcompensating because of that. And it is rampant in the dance world, you guys. Like, it is crazy how many dancers I have worked with who think that their glutes are strong, and then we start exploring all these different exercises and they're like, whoa, I have not felt this muscle activate, my glutes were asleep. So this can be really sneaky, okay? So that's what we're gonna get into today, how to watch out for it and how to fix it too, how to start getting that muscle back online, because when your glutes can activate, your hamstrings can also activate. And when your hamstrings can get stronger, they can also get more flexible. You can stop dealing with pain in your knees. Your core is going to be able to activate better, your low back's going to feel better, your hips, your sacrum, your hip flexors aren't going to be gripping as hard. Like, this is so important. So there's a couple things that I'm going to show you what to look out for and how to fix them so that you can actually feel your glutes activate and know how to use them to support your body. So let's get into it. Okay, so friends, so the first main issue here, what can really cause gluteal amnesia is, one, maybe we just weren't taught, how to really feel that in our body. We've kind of just been going about thinking we're activating our glutes, but not really. And then what can happen because of the intensity of dance, right? Like, what's going to happen is other muscles are going to start to overcompensate. So I want you to investigate in your body. If you have really tight, always kind of tired quads, if you feel like you're always gripping in your hip flexors, and if your calves are really tight all of the time, you probably have gluteal amnesia. So what can happen is when the calves overactivate, it can actually shut the glutes down. So we can, we could go through doing pliés, we can do petit allegro, we can do a lot of stuff that only my calves are doing the work. I can just plie and do all this and it's only my calves and my glutes are totally asleep. So I want you to first try out, if you do a little squat or if you do petit allegro, what are your glutes doing? if you weren't trying to think about it, does it all just come from your calves being the ones pushing off? Another way that this can happen too is even when we're doing squats, depending on where our weight is and how our alignment is, I'm in a squat here and my butt ain't doing nothing, and I feel it right here in my quads, even in my knees, my hip flexors are gripping. It's yep, doing squats, but it's all in my quads. So also if you do leg work, lower body, and you only feel your quads burning, that is a huge sign that your glutes are also shut down. So here's a couple ways that you can go about fixing it. First thing is when we're doing squats, whether we are in a chair pose, whether we are doing a parallel squat or a turned out squat or even a single leg lunge, what you want to think about is shifting your weight more towards your heels. So let's take just a regular parallel squat here. Do this with me. And notice first where your weight is. So if I'm not trying to activate my glutes, I'm kind of just I feel my weight is much more forwards. It's right. It feels like your quads are working. You can feel your calves. It probably feels like your calves are really working, okay? What I want you to do is actually shift your weight back into your heels. You can lift your toes off the floor and then place them down so they're just lightly touching the floor, okay? We want to think weight is in the heels. And then imagine you could you're trying to pull the mat apart, or trying to pull the floor apart with your feet. This external kind of pulling motion coming from the hips. So not just coming from the feet, but really think that should immediately activate your outer glutes here. Then you're shifting your weight back to your heels, lift up through the chest so you're also not just putting more weight into your quads. And then try a few squats from there. And you can also try, see if you can get your calves to relax a little bit here. That might be kind of hard if the pattern is really ingrained in your body. But just try a couple ways. See if you can start to notice the difference in what's happening. Let's say your glutes are totally relaxed, right? You squat down, calves are working, quads are working. Now what if you could think about, squeeze your butt, put the mind in the muscle, feel it activating, shift your weight back, lower down, try and pull the mat apart, and try to relax your calves a little bit. It's going to feel, your quads are still gonna work, but it should feel like your back body is working as well. And you might even notice, I don't even have the balance to do that. If I try to shift my weight back, it's whoa. That's a sign your glutes are shut off. So use a wall, use a chair, anything to help you balance as you're practicing getting your weight back, okay? You should feel like your weight is back when you are doing squats and stuff. If you find your weight is really shifting forward, or you're really bending over here, kind of hinging when you squat, see if you can bring it back, really make that booty work. Right? In chair pose, it's you're sinking your weight as if you are sitting into a chair. That's gonna help a lot. You might also feel that your shins and the front of your legs activate a little bit more too. That's good. That's gonna help stabilize your ankles too. So that's first thing, is kind of make sure your weight is actually back and not forward. When you do that, it takes also a lot of strain off the knees, because it can be a lot if your weight's forward, your glutes aren't activated, it's a lot on the knees. So shift that back and also engage the core. Oh yeah. And then I can feel my calves can be pretty wiggly here. They're activating a little bit, but they're not gripping. Okay, second thing here, in a lunge, let's say you're doing a lunge, because this is really easy to grip here in the front of your hips, right? We're gripping, all the work's coming from here, my quad's taking a lot of it, your knee might feel a lot of pressure, and I can feel, when I'm not thinking about activating my glutes, my weight is much more here in my toes. You might even feel like your toes are gripping the floor a little bit, okay? So you might also notice too that you're kind of arching. What is your low back doing? If you're kind of here, oh my gosh, my knees are feeling it. My low back's kind of, nothing's happening. So first thing I want you to pay attention to is, one, finding a little bit of a tuck in that pelvis, okay? If you find that your low back's here and you're kind of just dumping into your low back, use the glutes to find a neutral pelvis, okay? You also want to square off your hips here so you're not opening up like this too much. And I want you to drive through the heel of this front foot, okay? So what happens if you, one, try and keep that knee over the ankle so you're not putting too much weight forward just while we're practicing this. See if you can keep a neutral pelvis. You are going to feel the quad of this back leg work, but I want you to focus on this front leg booty. Driving through the heel. Again, kind of let the toes relax and spread on the floor. You can even practice pressing off. And think about the booty driving you down and not also letting your back go. So try this on the other side as well. So neutral pelvis. And if this is really hard for you, if you're like, oh, it feels such a hard stretch, there's another video that I will link below on how to stretch out your hip flexors so that you don't just feel like your back is arching. If you have a really bendy back but really tight hip flexors, that video is gonna help you a lot. But you wanna find that neutral pelvis, squaring off the hips, drive through the heel. Drive through the heel. You can bring those toes off the floor, okay? So we're really trying to keep the weight back. Core in, booty squeeze. Oh my God, so much more of a booty workout than, you know, you can do the same exercise. It's gonna look the same, right? But it's all about what's happening internally, on the inside. Where is your weight? Where is your focus? Are you aligned? What's happening in your low back? You can activate the core as well to support not sagging in your low back. Your glutes are gonna work as well. Now, another place to think about this is if you're on your back doing something like a bridge, right? It's really easy to also do bridges and have a lot of it be coming from the quads and not really using this for glute activation. So again, drive through the heel. And I want you to really, again, here, think about tucking the glutes, or tucking the pelvis, using the glutes and the core to tuck the pelvis, and squeezing up. So if you're here, and your low back is kind of sagging, you're just pressing up like this. Oh yeah, very little glute activation, mostly in the core, or the quads, and the calves. So notice here too, do your calves really activate here? If they do, you want to try and relax them, keep the calves relaxed, drive through the heel, and roll up. So I'm really tucked at the top here, like I'm not sagging here, I'm really popping that pussy up to the ceiling, okay? And then rolling back down. And when you do that, your glutes are gonna work way more. So again, I'm driving through the heels, and tucking the pelvis, and I can immediately feel that my glutes are working way more than my quads. My calves are somewhat more relaxed, and the thing is, you're not trying to completely shut down the quads. They're gonna work, the calves are gonna work, but we want the majority of it to be coming from the booty, okay? And you can also play around with where your feet are placed here. So if your feet are really close to you, if they're kind of closer in towards your body, you're probably gonna feel it a lot more in your quads, okay? If you bring them a little bit farther away, and you can even lift your feet, your toes off the floor, so it's just through the ankles, then you're gonna feel it a lot more in the back of the body as well. So play around with that. Notice if your feet are really close, you're gonna feel it a lot more in the quads. If you bring them a little farther away, you're gonna feel it more in the hamstrings and the glutes, which is what we want. So that's something to think about as well, where your feet are. Tucking that pelvis and really using the glutes to lift you up while trying to relax the calves. And if your calves are really tight, I would also recommend getting in a habit of rolling them out. Like get a tennis ball in there, because they might be really just like gripping super, they might be gripping super hard. The fascia surrounding them might be really tight knit and entangled. So we also want to help the calves learn that they can relax, because it's likely if you have gluteal amnesia, they're so used to taking over everything that they might need a little help and encouragement to be like, hey, you can relax, you're good, and get them that nice jiggle. Now, if you're really struggling to feel your glutes work, your best friend is gonna be a booty band, okay? So you can use the same, do all those same exercises and have some resistance, okay? Right? If I'm here and I keep creating that resistance through the band, you bet I'm gonna feel my glutes, especially kind of the outer glutes, the glute min and glute medius. You can also use the band in the lunge. Whew. Although that's gonna make it a lot harder, you're gonna have to focus a lot on not gripping through the hips. So I would use it in like squats to really create that pull apart, to make sure your knees aren't dropping in, you're not rolling in on your arches, you're really pulling out. Again, weight is not forward, it's shifted more back, working on that balance. And really think the booty is sending energy down, like really have it come from the glutes. Don't just have it all come from the quads, okay? One last thing here to pay attention to is another way we can work our glutes is with doing things like donkey kicks, stuff like this, fire, woo, you guys hear that click, fire hydrants, but the thing here that's going to, again, shut the glutes off and bypass the muscle is what we're doing in the core and the back and the spine. So here's what I see a lot, people doing like donkey kicks, and look at what's happening in my back. They're like kick, kick, twerk, twerk, twerk. There's like a lot of movement happening here. I want you to, anytime you are doing any kind of like leg lifts, donkey kicks, hip circles, fire hydrants, you need to isolate the glute by making sure that your low back is staying in place. So I want you to push into the floor, really lift, don't sink through anything. We don't want to sink and sag here. I'm going to push and lift, pulling up, almost creating a flat back here. So you're not rounding, but you're definitely not arching. You can even practice placing a book or a block here and making sure that it stays in place, that you don't start. If you feel it moving, right, if you feel it like getting up onto your back, you need to stop. So you can do this. And when you do this, when you don't use your back to allow movement, oh my God, it is going to force your glute to work. And so you might feel, oh my God, I can't get these like high kicks, right? I can only, ugh. And it's gonna feel like your glute is fighting against your back. And I want you to feel like that. I want you to feel like your core is fighting to keep your back straight while your glute is working to get that leg up. You can't cheat your mobility by sagging through the back there, okay? This, not only is it really good for protecting your low back, because right, our low back, oh my God, that's so much overuse, that's so bad for it, and your booty and your hamstrings are gonna work so much more. Okay, so try that out with me right now. I want you to feel this. And one other thing here too is to make sure that your knees are really under your hips, that you're not like this. If you're kind of scrunching it all, when you do this, you're gonna feel that grip in the other leg's hips. So I want you to, when you have that leg up, see if you can even here use the glute of the stabilizing leg to support you instead of using the quad and the hip flexor here. So even just notice when you're trying to, I know this is a lot to think about, if you're trying to keep your back stable, you're trying to lift with the glute, what's happening in the front of this other leg? Is it gripping? Are your hip flexors and quads gripping? Or can you shift forward a little bit? Create a little bit, if you're really like crunched here like this, you need to shift forward and almost like try and create a little bit of space there, and then squeeze this booty too. Oh yeah, then we've got both glutes working. You can already feel the burn, so much more effective than this, right? Even though this is like, yeah, wow, working, looks so good. I'm gripping through the front of my hips. My back is doing all the work, and I'm not actually working anything. So try that both sides. Activating the core, and get your block up there, creating space in the hip, squeezing that opposite booty, and then isolating from the glute. Oh yeah. So that is something I really need you to think about. So most important things are drive through the heel. Anytime that you are doing something with your feet on the floor, really emphasize like getting your weight back through the heels, okay? Shifting your weight back, like literally bring the weight into your booty and your hamstrings to be worked. Second thing is be aware of what's happening in your spine. I always opt for working towards a neutral pelvis and really trying to avoid arching through the spine, okay? And again, if you need help, if you have a really bendy, archy back, but your hip flexors are really tight, and even doing something like this, right? Having like a tucked pelvis in a lunge, and your back straight, if that's really hard for you, if you feel like, wow, that is a big stretch, I have a video that I'll link below that's really gonna help you there. So again, making sure what's happening in your spine. Can you really keep a neutral pelvis and a neutral low back? Same thing here, not letting this back arch. And third thing is to just honestly like put your mind in the muscle, like put your hands on your glutes. Think about activating them. And then when you're standing, when you're doing any like side to side squats, anything like that, think about pulling this like outwards pulling motion happening from the glutes. Shifting your weight back, mind in the muscle. And those three things can start to really shift how your body's gonna feel. I have a ton of videos on this. If you wanna do a full class related to working the booty to protect the knees and the spine and all of that, but this is really just a breakdown of the what, the why, and the how. So this is huge, guys. This is seriously, like, I have had students who have had knee pain their entire life that they've started doing this from all of my YDA classes, and then they don't have knee pain anymore. Or people who had chronic low back issues that they started paying attention to this, and then their low back pain went away. Also, you can gain so much more like hip mobility just from working your glutes too, because like your side booty, your glute min, glute medius, and glute max, like they're all doing this work to like do your grand rond de jambes, everything like that. So the more that you can work those, the better you're gonna feel, the more supported your joints are gonna feel, the less pain you're gonna have. And then you can actually start making gains with your booty. If you felt like, oh, I do squats, I do all these workouts, but my booty's not growing, this might be why. So let me know if this was helpful. I will link all these videos and more resources for you below, and I will see you soon. Mwah! Have a great day, y'all.